Good afternoon and welcome to Legerity's FastPost Showcase. I'm your host, Mike Wilson, and I'm delighted that you could join us today as we chat about Legerity's platform and how it's helping organizations reimagine their accounting operations, welcoming the opportunities that transformation is bringing, addressing the regulatory challenges of today and tomorrow, and embracing the possibilities of automation and cost efficiencies. Here's a quick run through of the insights, interviews, and demos that I'll be sharing with you today. I'm delighted to be joined by Jeremy Wood, CEO and founder of Legerity. Our special guests will include Bryce Earhart, Director of the Accounting Advisory Practice of KPMG New York, who will be talking about the importance of accounting rules process and how it can help firms deliver that transformation, regulation, and automation. I'll also be joined by Lisa Wardlaw, formerly a C-level executive at Munich Re and Farmers New World Life, and she'll show her perspective on the market challenges and drivers CFOs are facing modernizing financing operations. And we'll also be joined by colleagues from Aegon, along with Elizabeth CPR, Legerity's Chief Revenue Officer. We'll be chatting about Aegon's recent successes in deploying Legerity FastPost and tackling a complex multi-country, multi-business line IFRS 17 project. So to get us underway, I'm going to hand over to Jeremy Wood for a company update.
Well, thank you, Mike, and thanks to everyone for joining us today at a very exciting time for our company. I'd like to share an update on our activities over the last 12 months. Despite the challenges of the global pandemic, we've been laser focused on delivering some of the most successful IFRS 17 projects across the globe. Our FastPost Express for IFRS 17 out-of-the-box SaaS solution has been massively successful, helping insurers deliver this complex new accounting standard in a cost and time-effective manner. IFRS 17 is truly a global standard, and our client base now extends from the US to New Zealand, with pretty much everywhere in between. Our achievements have been recognized by the industry, and earlier this year we were delighted to have been awarded the prestigious IFRS 17 Solution of the Year by Insurance ERM. We were also recognized as a category leader by industry analyst Chartist. We're delighted today to be joined by our colleagues at Aegon International, who will take us through one of the industry's real success stories for IFRS 17 and their implementation of FastPost. We've also delivered some standout finance transformation programs over the last 12 months. One particularly high-profile project, which was driven by the hard Brexit date, meant transferring finance operations to a new European location, as well as adopting a new accounting standard, all within a 6-month window. As with many tech firms, we're coming out of the pandemic stronger and are delighted to report that our SaaS revenues and ARR have grown by more than 100% year on year, and our headcount has increased by over 50%. As we turn our attention to the next 12 months, we're confident that 2022 is going to be another highly successful year for Legerity. Game-changing product developments and geographic expansion into the US market. We founded Legerity in 2014 with a mission of delivering cloud-native, ultra-high performance accounting rules technology to allow firms to change the way they deliver finance. So I'm very proud that we can showcase Legerity FastPost today and thank my team and our colleagues from global consulting firm KPMG, market expert Lisa Wardlaw, and project and technology specialist Haya and Alexander from Aegon International, all who have been part of our journey. We hope you enjoy the show.
FastPost is the next generation accounting rules platform. Cloud native, ultra-high performance, developed using the latest open source technologies for large volumes of complicated data and processes. Finance departments are under pressure. Legacy systems are creaking, inefficient, and error-prone. Forward-looking CFOs are driving change. finance today is more than just accounting. Multiple stakeholders, clients, regulatory challenges, and the new digital world need a single version of the truth. Granular, accounting-validated data on demand. FastPost is modular, fully integrated with open interfaces and APIs, and the ability for user-defined business rules. Setting the standard for the next generation of accounting rules and subledger technology. We shorten processing time from days or hours to minutes. Offered both as a software and platform as a service, providing flexible and rapid deployment options to match your business needs. FastPost. Finance with confidence.
Congratulations, Jeremy, on everything you achieved. What a great company update. So, Jeremy, there are a couple of expressions which are front and center in Legerity's thinking that I'd like you to share with the audience today. The first one is you make the rules. Could you elaborate on that?
Sure, I'll be very happy to, Mike. So you make the rules encapsulates what is now possible with the FastPost no-code accounting rules platform. Reflects the fact that users can not only just control the business and accounting rules that run finance, but now have a game-changing platform to create additional rules to deliver business agility in an easy-to-use no-code solution. They have full knowledge that they're operating within a safe IT-approved environment and not having to plug the functional or process gaps or shortfalls off systems with spreadsheets, EUCs, or other workarounds.
So we have this replacement of end-user computing, skunkworks, this no-code accounting rules platform piece, driving that for making the rules definitions. The next piece, Jeremy, I'd like to talk about is you talk about a single version of the truth. What does that mean?
Well, a single version of the truth is that nirvana that finance has been chasing for many years. Represents a standardized, highly granular set of finance data that drives faster reporting cycles, increased business insight, competitive edge, and regulatory compliance across the firm. Includes all business lines, products, services, and customers. And it's a major building block of any finance transformation project. As a key component of a modern finance systems architecture and data ecosystem, Legerity FastPost plays an important role in delivering what we call finance with confidence.
Thank you, Jeremy. What an exciting time for Legerity and for your clients and your markets you operate in. What a great update. Okay, now it gives me great pleasure to welcome Bryce Earhart, Director of Accounting Advisory Practice at KPMG New York, to the stage. Bryce, I'm delighted you could join us today. Could you introduce yourself and your role at KPMG, please?
Yeah, sure, Mike. My name is Bryce Earhart. I am a director in KPMG US's Accounting Advisory Services practice. I spent about 13 years with KPMG, where I've spent almost all that time working with insurance companies within the financial services practice. I spent a lot of time with companies working through regulatory compliance requirements on the accounting side, right? Helping them with dealing with change. That change can come from a variety of different ways, but usually it requires some sort of implementation of something new within an organization.
Well, today, Bryce, you're joining to talk about the need for firms and financial operations to embrace digital transformation, regulation, and automation. To start, what is the importance of an accounting rules platform for firms?
Yeah, it seems like, to me at least on a daily basis, there's more complexity that's becoming integrated into how businesses operate across it, but especially within the finance realm of businesses. This could be the result of new regulations, new ways of viewing the business, integrating more data into the business, or even as simple as acquiring another business with different processes and controls. And an accounting rules platform can really help to standardize and really centralize a lot of critical processes within the organization. So for example, these types of platforms can give companies the ability to centralize their accounting rules, of course. It is called an accounting rules platform. But it can also help with the integration and alignment of different data from different sources. And it can also help with automation of things like generating accounting journal entries. And the key here is these can support not only financial reporting, but also management reporting and any sort of operational process. And that's a critical point there, because what we're trying to do is take the financial reporting and the management reporting and marry them up in a way where you can see both at the same time in real time. So in addition to what these accounting rule platforms can do, they can also significantly reduce some of the common operational pitfalls when it comes to accounting. So one of these is reducing the risk of accounting for transactions incorrectly, right? There's a lot of manual effort that usually goes into accounting processes, close process, etc. And these accounting rules platforms do a lot of the heavy lifting from an audit trail perspective as well for you. So you're doing things automatically, and you're probably pushing a little less paper here. It can also give you earlier access to financial results. And here, again, a critical piece of what these things can do for you. Qualitative reporting, we know, is critical to reporting out to the marketplace, but it also takes time. And it's critical to report something to your stakeholders that's accurate and timely.
Just to build on that, Bryce, what are the common challenges you're seeing in organizations that signal the need for firms to implement a new accounting rules platform?
Sure. So one of the biggest questions or signals, I'd say, Mike, is where we see organizations that are dependent on various different legacy accounting applications. And for financial service companies, this is quite commonplace given the amount of acquisitions they take part in. So because there's just so many accounting applications that exist within the organization, there's an inherent inefficiency that comes with this environment. And because of that, we find ourselves in a point where the close process can take significant resource, can take significant time, and they're spending their time on manual preparation, manual data manipulation, reconciliations, etc. A lot of this, I mean, these are good things. These are things that have to happen, but they're not necessarily value-added analysis. So the fact that we're spending a lot of time on manual effort is another signal for the need for an accounting rules platform. One other thing to point out, Mike, with these signals, we've worked with a lot of clients to help decommission these legacy accounting applications and design a future state finance organization that includes an accounting rules platform, that includes these platforms that we're talking about. Usually what this means is that you decommission those systems and you include automating the accounting processes, developing an enhanced close model, and providing the ability to gain daily insights into financial performance. And the key here is you're automating all of that. You have an audit trail. So you've freed up your resources in this future state. And these resources can now spend time on more value add creation, more value add business activities that they may not have been able to do in the past. So they're focusing on understanding what's happening in the business, why it happened, and how they can react to it.
Bryce, can you share a deeper look at the benefits an organization can hope to realize?
Yeah, definitely. That's a really good question. And, to be honest, in my opinion, the integration of an accounting rules platform can really result in significant and fundamental advances in the finance department. And there's a couple different opportunities. I would probably break these opportunities down in a couple different buckets. The first, we've talked about it. The first is automation of critical processes, such as the movement of data from your source systems through to the GL, all the way through to reporting the output. And again, this is going to be automated. The platforms will also give you an enhanced view of transparency into your journal entries and underlying business transactions. What I mean by that is you can go to an entry and you can literally double click on it, and the platform will give you insight into the derivation of that entry all the way down to the calculation logic in the mapping. So that transparency is something that a lot of finance organizations have not had previously. We talked about resources, unlocking resources for higher value business activities. That's another critical aspect here. The accounting rules platforms can really play into long-term strategies to make your finance department and organization much more efficient going forward. And I haven't really talked about compliance costs recently. I spent a lot of time working with clients on regulatory compliance, and accounting rules platforms can really help reduce these types of compliance costs and respond to regulatory requirements quicker. I think one thing that we've done in the past is, some of our US clients, they've used regulatory accounting change to actually rationalize the need for an accounting rules platform. So they've taken something that's a compliance exercise and they've used it to develop a long-term strategy to shift and modernize their finance organization. So I think that's a powerful point to say that, a lot of companies are understanding that they need to do this. It's just a question of when can they do it rather than if they should do it in the first place.
That brings it all together really nicely, Bryce. Thank you. For the last question, we're here today to talk about Legerity. Could you share with the audience your recent experience working with Legerity?
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe maybe I can step aside from the technical side of things, maybe talk about the people aspect of this type of work and with Legerity in particular. I've had the pleasure of teaming with Legerity recently on an insurance accounting change project. And I would say that Legerity's people culture is very conducive to working in a collaborative environment and across different organizations. So in this particular instance, we had three key parties involved. We had the client, we had my firm KPMG, and we had Legerity. And we're all obviously trying to work towards one goal. And honestly, from the start, there was a seamless integration between KPMG and Legerity, where each firm's success was aligned with achieving the overall program objectives that were set out by the client. And in these types of situations where there's more than one vendor providing support to a client, it's absolutely critical that the client sees an integrated teaming environment between the different vendors. And in this instance, we were able to achieve that from day one and without any significant growing pains. And that is a key element of making that happen. A key element to making that happen was the professionalism and experience working across lines that Legerity was able to bring to the table.
And if you may, Bryce, just one final question. If there was one thing you'd like the audience to take away from the chat today, what would that be?
So I think that key takeaway, Mike, is going to be that the future's here, the future's now, and the future in a finance organization is going to be these types of accounting rules platforms. We see a lot of companies in a position right now where they are either transitioning to these platforms right now, or if they're not, they have a plan too. And so if you're not in one of those buckets, then you're not necessarily modernizing your function in a way that is aligned with how others are thinking about it. So that's what I would suggest for the audience, is if you're not thinking about how to modernize your finance organization, think about it. And to be honest, an accounting rules platform is one of the best ways to modernize your finance functions right now.
Fantastic, Bryce. Thank you very much for your time. It's really appreciated. At this point to the show, I'd like to welcome Atanas Jelev, Client Services Director for Digital Transformation at Legerity, to the stage.
Thanks, Mike. So you have heard about a single version of the truth, and Bryce very clearly spoke about how an accounting rules platform can be a major step forward in delivering finance transformation. So now let's see what it actually looks like within the FastPost platform and see how it makes finance and business users' lives easier. At the heart is a highly granular set of accounting validated data that not only drives financial and regulatory reporting requirements, but also provides increased business insight through additional data segmentation and attribution. Let's take a look. Through the easy-to-use GUI, finance now has immediate access to fully validated accounting data across the firm. Subject to enterprise-class security, the user has access to up-to-the-minute finance data by entity, by ledger, by currency, even by a specific accounting or regulatory standard. Data can be viewed and reported on across any time dimension from year, quarter, month, week, down to individual days. A traditional finance view is presented in standard trial balance form, or you can select a specific account code, for example, total revenue. Now let's start to add additional business insight. A single version of the truth delivers additional business insight on demand. The FastPost platform is based on a best-in-class technical architecture using the latest in-memory data grid technology. This means that if you want to analyze your data by customer, product, sales channel, or by contract, policy, or trade, you have immediate access to it. There is no need to download the data into a separate BI tool and then merge data from separate databases. It is right there in FastPost, ready to view. It doesn't stop there. If we then want to drill down to the financial detail and then the individual contract or transaction itself, it is just a matter of point and click, providing full data lineage and a complete audit trail. FastPost provides the computer power to store massive volumes of data. That means if we want to start forecasting future revenues, we can take a predictive view based on certain assumptions and business rules and across multiple scenarios to support advanced FP&A activity. Thank you.
Thank you, Atanas. Jeremy, turning back to you, could you share with our audience the drivers of transformation, regulation and automation, which Bryce talked about in his presentation, and maybe perhaps touch on each of these as you saw Legerity's offerings in this space?
Very happy to do that, Mike. And firstly, thank you, Bryce, for giving us such an insight into the applicability and how accounting rules platforms can really help transform finance. So yeah, cloud native technology like FastPost can change the way we deliver transformation. The FastPost platform doesn't require rip and replace. It's open interfaces, sits alongside our clients' legacy platforms, helping firms to harness digital transformation.
So, transformation, now turning to regulation. Your thoughts on regulation, Jeremy?
Well, coming from a finance discipline, we're grounded in regulation. Our success in enabling IFRS accounting change is a fantastic reference point. And with who you make the rules, we give firms the ability to adhere to the regulations of today with confidence about adhering to the regulations of tomorrow.
So, Jeremy, front and center on folks thinking is automation and cost efficiency and removing friction of processes. Could you just elaborate on that with our audience, please?
Well, automation is really about driving efficiency, and a modern accounting rules platform can help automate the end-to-end finance process. We improve data quality, we standardize the accounting treatment, and we deliver this important single version of the truth, granular finance validated data.
Now, I'm delighted to be joined by Lisa Wardlow, formerly a C-level executive at Munich Re and Farmers New World Life. Hi, good morning, Lisa. How are you?
Hi, good morning. Nice to see you.
Lisa, I'm delighted you could join us today. Could you introduce yourself and some of your experiences to our audience, please?
Of course. Hi. Nice to meet everyone. Lisa Wardlaw. I am currently heading up Global Insurance Solutions for ISI, and previously I was the CFO at Farmers New World Life and CFO/COO at Munich Re globally.
Well, I'm delighted you could join us today, Lisa, and share some of your experience with our audience. So today we're talking about the challenges of transformation, regulation, and automation for chief financial officers and folk coming to terms with the transformation needed for their business. To get us underway, Lisa, what are the challenges you're seeing facing the market in terms of the need for financial transformation?
Well, I guess I just would start by saying that the fact that we have to focus and compartmentalize transformation into something labeled finance transformation is a challenge in the market in and of itself, right? So, I mean, I've been after this journey for a really long while. In particular, I think that really we started with like UX and CX and digital and how do we get to the customer first? And clearly, finance has always been at the back end, but with the data and the data lineage that organizations are facing, never before has there been a more pertinent and, I would almost say call to action for the finance function to become digitally dexterous.
And is it a completely data-driven piece that starts with the data? That's the thing that they're waking up to, just how valuable this data is?
what I would say is that data has always been basically the output of the finance function. I once had a great mentor that said, what matters to finance is everything with a dollar or a euro or a pound in front of it, right? And so I think that we've always had this misnomer in organizations, and this is what I mean, this deep verticalization that it only matters once it gets to finance. So to kind of pull that all back to data, the techniques, capabilities, and infusion of data, in my mind, haven't really delivered the ROI needed because we have intentionally as organizations compartmentalized this. So we've decided, well, what goes into the general ledger? What goes into our ERP systems? And because of the cost, in essence, of processing and to be a little accountancy of booking debits and credits, we very much reduced, redacted, and eliminated that throughout time under this very minimal processing. So now fast forward into a world where everything is data, and our consumers are hyper-personalized, and we have these lovely standards like IFRS 17, which we'll get to that, in this conversation, and which I'll say why I love it. Just I'll kind of insert that here. Is that it's the very catalyst for the infusion between the front end and the back end. And so we've entered this world where now it's like our ERP systems and our traditional norms are quite poignantly falling behind because they were never designed that way to begin with. So that's why I really lifted up to data, getting into data lineage, and then ultimately, in my mind, how do we do things outside of the traditional norms of the big monolithic and Goliath ERP systems?
Well, you touched on regulation, which I think is a great tipping point off now. And look, how are the market responding to these challenges of transformation and regulation and the need for cost efficiency? And then I'd like to touch on maybe on our host today on Legerity and why Legerity are perfectly placed to help firms with these challenges.
Yeah, so I think there's these interesting divides or dilemmas that I've seen like over my experience, and just real quickly on IFRS specifically, I go back, and I'm going to date myself a little bit for the audience. I go back to I was actually working in Zurich, Switzerland in 1998, implementing what was defined at the time as IAS. So we hadn't even gotten to the IFRS labeling yet. And so back in those days, I was working on global gapping, and then of course, insert Sarbanes-Oxley and the world starts turning. I then started working on U.S. companies and implementing IFRS, and with a goal towards IFRS 17. At Munich Re, I focused a lot on, how can we do this, to your point about, is it a compliance exercise or is it an opportunity for modernization? So when I was working on it there, it was really the intersect of, listen, we've got all these modernization, innovation, transformation things going on. How can we use this as a way to really think about the way we price our business and not deem it just a compliance exercise? So there's the two avenues that people will take. And unfortunately, because of the traditional systems, infrastructure, and processing, a lot of organizations have had to just take we've got to just cross the finish line approach, which, to your point, gets into the compliance, right? We've always been thinking, both at Munich and when I was at Farmers, of how do we do more with less? Because that's what compliance, innovation, and transformation really requires. So how do you really jump in at any springboard, which we'll get to Legerity? I think that's going to be your next question. How do you really jump in strategically? This is your call as a CFO. How do you leverage this to its utmost potential? So how do you jump in at whatever point you're on and create not only compliance momentum for this initiative, because I think IFRS 17, yes, we all would acknowledge we have to comply, but how do you really change the way you as a business price and monitor your actual profitability and margin? So I'll pause there because I think you had another question that you were going to continue with.
Well, I think you've touched on it there, this intersection of compliance and business and technology, and that's where Legerity perfectly sits and are perfectly placed. And Jeremy today talked about you make the rules, the empowerment of the business and the empowerment of technology. So maybe I'd like to revisit your own experience with Legerity and your own experience of why you think their technology is perfectly placed to help firms address these challenges of compliance, technology, regulation, transformation, and automation. Lisa?
Yeah, I would love to. And I would have to start by saying I'm pretty much a I don't believe in these off-the-shelf, commercialized, here it is, put it in and it works like this, which is probably how I ended up discovering Legerity. So I spent a lot of time at Munich with quite a few of the big ERP players. Actually, not only as a client, but I was helping co-design the IFRS 17 solutions. And the thing that was missing, which I feel that Legerity delivers, is it was all of this bolt-on, I call it like you have to drink the Kool-Aid, you have to buy the whole package, things that you don't need. I mean, talk about like so much like wasted, not only architecture, but implementation, processing. It was going to be 3 to 5 year projects, hundreds of millions of dollars. And so when I was doing it on that side at Munich, I was really looking for the stealth. How do you really form, and I'll say building blocks, because a lot of people say modular, and I usually think that that's a vaporware when people say modular. How do you form the appropriate building blocks of what you need? And then I'll layer on that, knowing what you need and going for fundamental data lineage in everything you do outside of master data management and these very traditional relational data models. I won't go too deep on data, but that's really fundamental to me. Okay, so then I had the opportunity to come in at Farmer, and I say opportunity, a little bit behind where I wanted to be in terms of our project momentum and delivery. And so it was just very fortuitous that I didn't have time to do these like 2 and 3 year projects. I certainly didn't have the budget. And I wanted to do debits and credits outside of an ERP system. And so I knew very much what I wanted. And I will say fundamentally, Legerity not only had the componentry that I was looking for, but the way they had thought through the intersect of the data modeling, the data lineage, and then combined it to the debit and credit. I mean, I've honestly never seen, you either get the accounting engine at the back end, kind of the like, oops, whoops, we don't know how to trigger the business drivers, or it's all business driver actuarial focused, no disrespect to my actuarial colleagues. And for me, it was just, I'll just say so innately organic when I heard them explaining how they designed their solution, that not only did I want to leverage it, but I was like, who designed this? Like, right? Like, I just want to meet this person because it's exactly what had been like architected in my head, like 3 to 5 years back. And then of course I was looking at extending beyond IFRS 17, and then how do I use Legerity to facilitate getting out of the traditional ERP world? I ultimately think big cloud-based data centers like Azure and AWS, I'll go on and say I predict we'll be able to do debits and credits outside of ERP systems, and we won't even need an ERP traditional system in the future. So I was very much leaning towards that. And I was not only using Legerity as my catalyst for IFRS 17, but I was leveraging them as my catalyst for where I wanted to take accounting and finance. I'll go beyond modernization, and I'll say really like authentic and radical transformation.
Brilliant. So look, Legerity's flexibility and agility, I'd like to build on this now and think about some of the future trends and future challenges you see and how they marry up for what the market should be thinking about and the challenges there, and also how they marry up to Legerity. So some kind of crystal ball gazing here, future trends.
Yeah. Well, I think if I were like investing in startups and tech and all this right now, I would say that the future for accounting and accounting systems, accounting software, and accounting, finance radical modernization is going to be finding a way to do the data lineage outside of traditional ERPs, including, literally debits and credits. So all the way down to all the things that we think of like accounting systems to do. So my crystal ball is that. And I think if you marry that with very advertised concepts like continual close, margin, and these customer hyper personalizations, we've got to get to where we could get down to an individual transaction level profitability analysis. That trend, as it permeates the front end, don't forget about CX and user design, the accounting function has to react to that. And we can't afford to do, the old school debits and credits for all that. So we've got to find a solution like a Legerity that can be that intersection between accounting, debits and credits, but can handle the volume of processing at that like individual transactional level.
Fantastic. So it's volume of sophistication, and it's been able to handle those complex scenarios. So Lisa, we're coming to the end of our time, but now that I've got you, I just want to ask you one final question, if I may. Lisa, if there's one thing you'd like the audience to take away from our chat today, what would that be?
I mean, I guess I always kind of like to say my call to action, or what I like to implore people to think about. Never think about something as just an as-is compliance exercise. So do not commoditize the path before you and the opportunity that you've been given. So do not commoditize it. And I'll go a second one and say it's never too late to layer up and add on the modernization component to your compliance exercises. Don't double down on a path that doesn't make sense for 2021. Be smart, be nimble, and be flexible.
Be smart, be nimble, be flexible. Lisa, thank you ever so much.
As we have heard, many firms still rely on outdated finance architectures based on inflexible systems, siloed data stores, manual workarounds, and spreadsheets, all bootstrapped together with hard-coded interfaces and expensive legacy technology. The result is finance departments have little agility to handle business change and are heavily reliant on IT support. Immediate business changes are usually handled off-system and of course proliferate the number of unaudited processes, control breaks and reconciliations. Onboarding new products or making any business change is a difficult and expensive process and usually takes many weeks. Our clients want to move to a digital, data-driven finance systems architecture that supports business agility and user control, but they also need to operate within a safe, IT-approved environment that includes the finance disciplines of audit and transparency. The FastPost no-code accounting and business rules platform provides finance users with a powerful no-code tool for supporting finance and business change quickly, on demand, with no fuss. Let's see how it works. Creating or changing accounting or business rules has never been easier for finance users using the FastPost no-code accounting rules platform. Operating within a secure and controlled IT-approved environment, users can use the intuitive point-and-click GUI to create or change accounting rules. All the finance dimensions such as ledger, entity, currency, GAAP, and account codes are available with full version, date, and accounting controls. Rules can be created once and then shared or reused for further modification. Multiple rules or rule sets can be applied to the same incoming events and transactions to create outputs to meet different financial and regulatory needs. For advanced calculation and processing, users have access to a powerful no-code expression language. Using Excel, familiar expressions and statements, users can create sophisticated logic, including numerical expressions and logical conditions to create advanced business and accounting rules. The FastPost Accounting Rules platform ensures that finance processes and the supporting calculations are controlled, transparent, and auditable, ensuring improved end-to-end automation and significant reduction of risk and error. Thank you.
Jeremy, I'd like you to share some of your thoughts and challenges that Lisa just mentioned there in her presentation. And particularly, she talked about this intersection of compliance and technology and the importance of data lineage. From an operational perspective, some thoughts on that, please.
Well, firstly, Mike, a big thank you to Lisa for participating in our showcase today. As you heard, Lisa is a great visionary and champion for change within finance. And it certainly was a pleasure working with her on a particularly high-profile Failure's Not an Option project. And we not only delivered on time and on budget, but we laid the foundation for further finance transformation. So we discussed that these types of projects often cross lots of department boundaries, and it really requires visionaries like Lisa to clearly set out where we need to get to and bring everyone along on that journey.
Well, that tees up nicely my next question, Jeremy. The same question I asked Lisa when she talked about the future challenges. If there's one thing that you'd like the audience to take away from your engagement with Lisa and from Lisa's presentation, what would that be?
Well, I think there's, again, a lot of synergies there with what Lisa was saying, because as visionaries, you've got to focus on that end goal. And certainly at Legerity, we're recognized as the industry innovator in accounting rules technology. You know, you don't get that accolade without setting the agenda. And we continually push ourselves to deliver massive step changes in what finance technology can deliver. So my message is, have a clear view of what success looks like, and that will help you deliver and get there.
Splendid. Thank you very much, Jeremy. Now I'm delighted to turn to our colleagues at Aegon to hear all about Legerity FastPost in action. I'm joined by Alexander from the technology side of the business and Haya from project management. Haya, turning to you first, what was the driving force behind the project with Legerity?
The driving force behind selecting Legerity, well, that is taking us a bit back in time. So at the end of 2018, we started doing an assessment on a new accounting standard, IFRS 17, and the new accounting standard for insurance contracts, big thing for insurance companies. And we recognized at the time that the complexity of that new accounting standard, where actuaries had to work with accountants, it's an accounting standard, and their IT colleagues. Well, a very new level of granularity was being asked by this accounting standard in reporting and data operations. Us being an aegon International, being a collaboration of multiple units in Europe, that we needed a good solution to take us through that complex process. So we wanted to have a common solution. For us, it was really, really important to get the data lineage organized so that we knew what data we were putting in and how that ended up in the end result in accounting. And to work together with 5 country units, 6 country units in the end, being effective and being efficient, we wanted that common solution, and we decided to look for a solution that could help us with these IFRS 17 calculations we needed to do, with an accounting rules engine, especially for data lineage, and a detailed subledger to keep better track in an accounting way of the details that were being asked for that. So that was the major driver of this phase of the program.
Thank you for that, Haya. So Alexander, would you be able to set the scene from a technology perspective?
Yes. So Aegon has a lot of infrastructure, and what we wanted to do within this IFRS 17 project is base this on top of cloud technology within AWS. And we have data ecosystems which have a secure setup, make sure that we have all data fully in control. So that was one of the challenges we had. Put the whole data ecosystem in place with Legerity in that ecosystem, make sure that we get all the data in there. And we want to do everything as infrastructure as code, and immutable infrastructure, meaning that we don't do any manual installation of software or hardware. It's all cloud-based, make templates, so that we cannot make any mistakes or errors or it cause incidents by patches and updates. So that's what we are trying to do with IFRS 17, have a full managed cloud environment with a fully automated process.
Great. So back to you. Could you give us some key areas where Legerity were the natural choice?
Criteria that were really important for us in selecting. What I told you before in an earlier question is IFRS 17 being an accounting standard. We found data lineage to be very important, to be and stay in control of our total data flow with all sorts of steps and components and get the front-to-end control. So being able to do that based on accounting rules, so your strength, Legerity's strength in accounting rules and event-based working was a really important factor for us in that. Combined with an accounting rules engine with the subledger, where we could have a more detailed journaling going on, was really, really important. If you look more from a collaboration perspective, IFRS 17 at the time was a brand new standard, principle-based, no rule-based, so there was no guidebook how to exactly do this. So we knew where we were starting, but not yet where we would be ending up in. So what we also especially needed was a very open solution that we could configure together with supplier to our needs. So that was a second really important factor in this whole selection process. And one last one, and Alexander was already touching upon that a bit. We need this part of tooling to interface with anything else we have running in aegon International. Cloud in the aegon network, but also, for instance, tooling for actuarial modeling. So we really needed to have an open interfaced tool. We are Dutch, so we like also to have all of this at reasonable cost. So that were important factors for us too.
How did Legerity fit in with Aegon's desired IT strategy?
Aegon wants to be a digital insurer to the customer, but Legerity is more an internal application, but also to our internal customers, so the actuaries, the accountants. We want to be a digital company and try to automate as much as possible. And Legerity fits in that part. It fits in our ecosystem strategy and be able to automate a lot of tasks in the whole processing. So in that sense, it helps us to become more digital. Instead of using only Excel, we can now use a proper application.
Turning to you both for this one, Hey and Alexander, what are the 3 key challenges that Legerity helped to address?
IFRS 17 was a principle-based standard. We had to find out a lot on how things would be working and would need to be set up in detail. Sometimes we are still discussing certain points, how to really realize that. There were at the time no off-the-shelf solutions available. So we needed a very open collaboration in which we would find our way during the process. So that is exciting on the one hand, sometimes also a bit scary on the other hand. So we needed collaboration, working together. So business people with business people, so accountants from supplier, from Legerity, with accountants and actuaries on our end. We needed that flexibility I was talking about earlier, to see if one solution doesn't work, then we might need to look in an alternative for that. So that was really, really helpful. Discussing on site, having the Legerity team over with us in Budapest with all of our countries in there in workshops was really helpful. And the way to go. So it was a challenge, and meeting live, I think, put us through that. Anything from you to add?
Yeah, I think the integration of FastPost inside the ecosystem, it was all based on already cloud components like EC2 instances and that kind of things. But there was a lot of fine-tuning, a lot of integration questions that we had to answer, and that really helped by sitting together and have an open discussion, and that really helped to get that in place. So that was one of the key aspects that we had to cover.
Yeah, and you might say, having said both of these points from a technical and from a content perspective, of course, with COVID, we got a new challenge on our plate. So we were very happy and very lucky that we had all these live meetings in the workshops in Budapest with hours together, 3 days at a row working together. So we knew each other all quite well. So relations were built, and so in that sense we could leverage that in COVID time. So we moved from live meetings to video meetings. This is the first time that we are back in the office in quite some months, also on our end now. It was challenging, but we were really happy with the foundation that we had built before that moment. So that was also a challenge to overcome.
Excellent. So here, what additional business benefits did Aegon International gain from the project?
Well, let me first say that IFRS 17 is a challenge on its own, so still working most on that one. But in parallel, we are doing parallel runs, but that's something else. In parallel, we have been working also on IFRS 9, so IFRS 17 on insurance contracts, but also IFRS 9 on financial assets. is undergoing quite a big change at the moment for insurance companies. So we have been building a prototype of a subledger, separate subledger, also in Legerity for that. And what we find interesting, we're now mainly focusing on IFRS 17 and 9 for the actuals, but for midterm planning and also for sensitivity reporting, we would also need to go into scenario planning, so what if scenarios. So we are looking also into capabilities, opportunities to have Legerity help us calculate some of these results that we would need in midterm planning. So estimation, scenario planning, I would say. Yeah, so that's the extra business benefits that we are pursuing at the moment.
And hey, could you chat through your experiences managing this project and working alongside Legerity?
Yeah, so I think in the end, and it was advice of old colleagues of mine, we have been treating this not as buying software, but from the start, I think we have been as a team working together on a solution. As I think that is really the core of what we have been doing, and why we think we are currently almost at the end of this process. So we are seriously testing and in the final phases now. So from the start, we really worked in concert, and in concert was then actuaries, accountants, and IT staff, like the team of Alexander. For us, that is local people, so the country units are subsidiaries in these countries, people from their end, regional people, so people that are collected around us, and the team of Legerity. So very nice that there is business people in there involved too. So there's also accountants talking to accountants. So that worked tremendously great for us. I think in working together, we had to adapt a lot on all sides. So with a still maturing standard for accounting, you never know where the day will end in your discussions, sort of. So that is asking lots of flexibility from our guys working over here, but also from Legerity. But it was always in good spirits.
Are there any key lessons you would take from this project?
Yes, of course. There is absolutely lessons to be drawn from doing the project, and I was talking to our Indian colleagues last week on it a bit. For me, it strengthens us in our ideas that these sorts of projects need iteration. So try to put down a core capability front to end as soon as you can and mature it, learn from your results and get better on it. Take lots of attention to your data modeling. So the model that needs to go, for instance, in the subledger or the data requirements, and maybe Alex can even extend a bit on that in a minute, but take very big attention to that part of the project. This collaboration, and I might be repeating this almost in every question, but working together, business and IT on this whole program, I think that is one of the big success factors that we had. So we had not one party, let's say, take the full lead and run with it and then forget about the others. Actuaries have seen what the reporting requirements of accountants need to be, and so that they know what the details of the calculations need to be. And by having the IT colleagues also in the room, we can immediately discuss that how such a cash flow estimates or something, modeling, needs to be inputted in an API, so in a neatly standardized way of working for data management. So that collaboration is most definitely something. What also some people might find interesting is, in the end, we worked from the back end to the front end. So we started with the reporting requirements we had to fulfill to our aegon group accounting staff. Learned from that how the accounting rules would need to be set up, how the events would need to be defined, and from that what the data requirements would need that we need to have from either source systems or, in this case, actuarial models. So that seems a bit odd for some people, but we learned the quickest in this way what data we would be needing. So this is most definitely also an advice from our end.
We're coming towards the end of the session, Hey and Alexander. What advice would you give to someone going through the same journey now?
Data. It is all about data. What Gea just said, understand the events and such, but in the end, the biggest struggle is to get all your data together from all your different sources. That's one of the reasons why we have a data lake where we try to get as much data as possible and from there define the data sets that we require. But it's really be very clear on the data that you need, what should it point out to. The interface contract that we have been working on with Legerity, describing exactly what type of fields, what the fields mean, what the type of financial characteristics are of the data. That data, that's really one of the things that's really tricky in this project.
Alex and his team now know a lot about actuarial data. So we have to combine the let's say, data lineage and data flow principles in your area with the very complex and deep knowledge of the actuaries and accountants on the content of the data. That was the main challenge. So please do it together. That's the main message we have.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, Gea and Alexander, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing such your insights and experience working with Legerity FastPost, and the very best of luck for the future.
Very welcome.
You're welcome.
I'm now joined by Elizabeth C. Pierre, Chief Revenue Officer for Legerity. First of all, congratulations on the aegon project, Elizabeth, super stuff. If there's one thing, we've heard so much today about digital transformation, regulation, if there's one thing about the aegon project I'd like to highlight for our audience, what would it be?
Aegon was the ideal customer for us. They had a really clear digital vision and they were relatively early players in IFRS 17, long before the IASB had actually finalised every aspect of the standard, if they've even done that yet. And therefore, they came to us with a complex project, 6 different countries, 70 SMEs on the project, and leadership. They had Gea and Alexander who really set the agenda, kept the pace up, and we're in dry runs. Many insurers haven't got that far, even though they've had the opportunity, they haven't been able to make it through their dry runs yet.
And it's extended beyond IFRS 17. They're much bolder and ambitious. Maybe touch on that for our audience, like beyond regulation, how they're going to use Legerity FastPost.
Well, that's why it was so important. They have a digital vision to digitise the front office. And if you can digitise the back office, then you've got that end-to-end process, that finance transformation, beginning to use finance accurate data for making decisions in the front office. And, FastPost is really designed for that. So
we heard from Gea from a business perspective and Alexander from a technology perspective, but why was Legerity FastPost so best suited to solve their problems of today and tomorrow? What is it about Legerity that's the ideal fit?
We are very lucky. We built this product, we started maybe 6 or 7 years ago. And at that point, we were able to use technologies that were designed for the cloud that are reasonably mature. They do their job really well. The sorts of technologies used by Apple in all their stores, used by Airbnb for workflow. And we were able to bring that into the back office for Aegon and complement what they're doing in the front office. And other software companies that started earlier, don't have that privilege really.
Yes. So this is best-in-class technology. Now, I have to ask you, Chief Revenue Officer, what can we expect from Legerity in 2022?
More business, more fun, and hopefully lots of successful clients.
More business, more fun, and lots more successful clients. That's fantastic. Thank you very much, Elizabeth. Now I'd like to invite Jeremy back to the stage for a conclusion on Legerity's FastPost Showcase. Jeremy, congratulations on a wonderful show. Just any particular takeaways you'd like to share with the audience today before we leave on FastPost, Finance with Confidence, and You Make the Rules? What would they be?
Well, yes, Mike. The number one is be excited and open to the possibilities of what platforms like FastPost can deliver. Current generation of finance professionals have grown up with technology as part of their day-to-day lives, not just something that they do at work. So they view things differently. And finance transformation today is no longer about wall-to-wall ERP replacement. It's about equipping these highly capable, tech-savvy users with agile, rules-based, no-code technology that they can own and deliver change and innovation.
A very, very exciting time for your company, Jeremy. So what can we expect from Legerity in the coming months?
Well, we definitely have a busy year ahead of us. We'll continue to scale up with expansion into new geographies and sectors. I'm particularly looking forward to opening up in the US. We also have a very exciting product roadmap with some game-changing capabilities being released during 2022. Accounting tech's now recognized as a core business enabler, and the next few years is going to see significant investment in modernizing finance and back office operations. And we at Legerity are looking forward to being at the heart of that.
Thank you very much, Jeremy. A really exciting time for Legerity and the very best of luck. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us for today's show. Please catch up on demand on legeritysfinancials.com. All the details are there on your screen. And just remains for me to say thank you very much to Jeremy, to Bryce, to Lisa, to Heya, and Alexander, as well as all the Legerity team. That's goodbye for now.